O Eledumare, O Eledumare, Zuberi's breath trembled, slipping in and out of rhythm like waves crashing then pulling back. In that moment, Adama felt something inside her shatter. The ceiling above her blurred into colors that bled into each other. Was it the room that spun, or had her soul just left her body? She floated, no, drifted, somewhere beyond her skin. Her limbs were lifeless, her breath hollow. She didn't move. She didn't cry. She just lay there, eyes wide open, heart frozen, seeing nothing. Zuberi gave a slow sigh, the kind that came after a deal had been struck. He rolled onto his side like a hunter done with his catch. Silence thickened the air between them. There were no words, no apologies, no acknowledgement, only the heavy weight of what had passed. The cloth beneath her back felt wet, cold, violated. It didn't belong to her. She wanted to rip it off, to scrub her skin until it burned, until all of it disappeared. But her body refused to move. Then his voice slithered through the stillness, careless and sharp. "I'm giving you one more chance, Adama. You know what to do." Her stomach clenched tight. She turned her head just slightly, just enough to see him tapping on his phone, thumbing through messages like she was invisible, like nothing sacred had just been stolen from her. She swallowed the sorrow swelling in her throat and forced herself upright. Her hands gripped the sheet, fingers curling into the fabric like claws. Maybe if she held on tight enough, she could stay grounded. But her body ached, and not just in her bones. No. The pain reached deeper. Somewhere no hand could touch. She wanted to say something. Ask if she still had a job. Whisper that she felt sick. Maybe scream until her throat tore, but she did none of those things. Zuberi finally looked her way, his eyes unreadable. Then laughter, light, amused. He adjusted his cufflinks like nothing about her had changed. "Good girl," he muttered. He reached into his wallet and placed a tidy bundle of crisp notes on the wooden table beside the bed. Adama stared at it. A bitter laugh tickled her chest, but never made it out. So that was it. Payment. Her hand curled into a fist, nails pressing into her palm as she fought the sting behind her eyes. But crying wouldn't help. It wouldn't erase what was done. She rose on unsteady legs, ignoring the soreness, ignoring the way her own skin now felt like it belonged to someone else. All she wanted was to get out, away from this room, from this air, from this man. "Be early at the office tomorrow," Zuberi's voice echoed as she neared the door. "I'll have something new for you." She didn't reply. She simply walked out, leaving the door ajar behind her. The corridor outside the hotel suite was eerily still. The red-patterned carpet dulled the sound of her footsteps. Each step pulled her deeper into herself. At the elevator she caught her reflection in a golden-framed mirror. Her blouse clung to her unevenly. Her lipstick was smeared. But it was her eyes that startled her. They looked vacant, hollowed out, stripped of all light. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime. She stepped in, and as they closed behind her, she finally exhaled, a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Adama had made a decision tonight, or maybe the world had made it for her. Either way, there was no undoing it. And though it felt like a decision, it hadn't felt like a choice at all. She was just 25, a radiant woman raised on dreams, sweat, and supplication. Her mother, Ijoma, a fierce matriarch, built their life around faith. She taught her daughters that no matter how hard the wind blew, the gods would always make a way. Adama had believed her. She'd grown up watching Ijoma hold their small home together with nothing but prayers and the stubborn love of a lioness. Her childhood had been forged in survival. Her father vanished before her 5th birthday, never to return. From that day on, it was just the three of them, Ijoma, Adama, and little Ngozi. While other children played, Adama learned to cook, clean, tend to her sister, and keep the house whole. She wasn't just the oldest. She was another mother. Every night she watched Ijoma on her knees, whispering petitions to the skies above. Adama joined her, echoing the hope that lived in their bones. She believed if they worked hard, if they were kind, blessings would follow. So she did everything right, never chased boys, not just because of the sacred teachings, but because she respected herself. She'd seen too many girls torn apart by men who gave nothing and took everything. She swore never to become one of them. She believed good brought good. That if she studied, she'd find a path. If she stayed honest, life would be fair. When she walked across that graduation stage, degree in hand, her heart had burned with certainty. Her future would shine. But that was before she met the... Well, Adama thought finding a job would be simple. After all, she had done everything right. She had graduated with honors, completed internships, built herself into the kind of woman employers dreamed of hiring. But the rejections rolled in like tides that refused to rest, each one pounding her spirit down, little by little. Every interview felt hopeful until it ended with the same worn-out lines. "We'll get back to you," or "You're impressive, but we went with someone else." Days turned into weeks, weeks into long, dragging moons. At first, Adama hid the truth from Ijoma, pretending life was fine. Every morning she dressed up like she had somewhere important to go, just so her mother wouldn't carry the burden of her disappointment. But the truth had weight, and it was growing. The bills stacked like stones in a river, slow but steady. Her mother's health was faltering. What began as a stubborn cough now left her breathless by noon, worn out by evening. Hospital visits became part of their routine, and the medicine needed cost more than they ever had. Meanwhile, young Ngozi was blossoming, just 14, bursting with dreams. She spoke of becoming a healer, of opening a clinic in the village one day. Her words were sunshine, filled with innocent hope. She still believed her big sister could fix the world. Adama held on to faith like it was the last thing keeping her upright. She fasted, prayed, whispered to the sky through cracked lips at night, asking the spirits to open a door. She walked for miles, shoes worn thin, submitting forms, offering smiles that masked her hunger. Sometimes she had no coin for transport, so she walked barefoot beneath the glaring sun, arriving at interviews with blistered soles and a spine made of hope. One evening, after yet another no, she sat in silence at the corner of their one-room home, bills spread out like broken promises. Ijoma reached across the table, placed her hand gently over Adama's. "You're doing your best, my daughter," she said, her voice soft with conviction. "The gods will make a way." Adama nodded, smiling back, but inside, doubt stirred like a restless wind. Was anyone up there listening? How long must they carry this weight? And then, as if the skies had finally cracked open, the call came. She got the job, the one she had dreamed of. She collapsed to her knees right there on the dusty floor, tears spilling like rain. "Thank you," she chanted through sobs. Ijoma cried too, wrapping her arms around her eldest child, both of them trembling under the joy of it. For Adama, it felt like a doorway had finally opened. She believed, truly believed, that this was the turning point they had been waiting for. But what she didn't know was that this doorway led into a storm. At first, everything was beautiful. The job was exactly what she had prayed for, professional, full of growth, a chance to provide for her family. She showed up early, left late, burned herself trying to shine brighter than anyone else. She wanted to be irreplaceable. But her boss, Chief Zuberi, was a man cloaked in charisma. His charm was sweet like honey but sharp as a hunter's blade. He smiled often, spoke softly, but something always felt off, like a snake moving through tall grass. He paid her attention that felt extra. "You're doing well, Adama," he would murmur, leaning close, watching her too intently. "You've got the kind of fire this place needs." She told herself it was just guidance, mentorship from a man who had climbed the ladder. So when he asked her to stay late for a quick meeting, she agreed without worry. She stayed behind, scribbled notes, listened to things she already knew. But the meetings multiplied. They got longer. They got personal. "Do you have someone in your life?" he asked one night, lips curling. "Hard to believe a beauty like you is still alone." She laughed nervously, brushed it off. She tried to keep it professional. Then came the warning. Amaka, a woman from the accounts office, pulled her aside one afternoon as they shared tea. "Be careful with the chief," Amaka whispered, eyes darting toward the hallway. "You don't want to be his favorite." Adama frowned. "What do you mean?" Amaka hesitated, then sighed. Just to keep your distance. Adama dismissed it. She wasn't doing anything wrong, she was here to work. But soon things began to shift. One evening, as she reached for her bag, Zuberi appeared behind her. His hand brushed the small of her back lingering a breath too long as he guided her to the elevator. Her body tensed. He chuckled. You work too hard, Adama. You need to relax sometimes. Then came the jokes, sharp, personal, laced with meanings he never quite said aloud. A woman like you shouldn't be alone, he whispered one late evening. You deserve to be looked after. She began to dread his presence, felt his gaze during meetings, the way he leaned close enough for her to smell his cologne. The compliments felt like barbs, the smiles like traps. And then the pressure thickened. The company began trimming its workforce. People vanished, one here, one there. Then entire teams. Whispers spread like dry Harmattan wind, about loyalty, about who stayed and who didn't. Adama felt the weight of survival pressing in. Her family still needed her. Her mother's cough was now a storm inside her lungs. Ngozi's school fees were overdue. She needed this job desperately. And Chief Zuberi knew it. The office air grew thick with unease, and soon the whispers became louder than footsteps. Soft words exchanged in corners, gazes that didn't linger too long. Fear moved through the place like dry season fire, fast and silent. Adama had once felt safe, like her hard work would protect her, but that illusion cracked. One day she was called into the HR room, a bland space with white walls and no warmth. Your role is under review, the woman said in a voice so hollow it might have belonged to a ghost. We're restructuring. You'll hear from us soon. Adama left that room on unsteady legs. She had done everything by the book, worked long hours, sacrificed weekends, become indispensable, and still, it seemed, none of it mattered. That evening, Zuberi summoned her into his office. She walked in, dread curled inside her chest. He leaned against his desk, a slow smile spreading across his face, like he had been expecting this moment. Sit, he said, gesturing to the chair. She obeyed, hands clenched in her lap, trying to steady her breath. He watched her, eyes sharp and unreadable. You know I like you, Adama. You're focused, dependable. He tilted his head, voice smooth like warm oil. I don't want to lose you. Her throat tightened. Thank you, sir, she managed to say. Then he nodded, once, slowly, and dropped his words like a stone in water. Sleep with me and your position is safe. For a second, she thought she had misunderstood. Her heart beat in her ears. The air in the room thickened until it hurt to breathe. She opened her mouth, but nothing came. Zuberi chuckled, amused by her shock. Think about it, he said, already scrolling through his phone. But don't take too long. Decisions are being made. She walked out in a daze, the lights in the hallway too bright, her hands trembling, her thoughts spinning in wild circles. That night in their small rented room, Ijoma called. Adama, did you send the money for my medicine? She asked gently. Adama shut her eyes tight, gripping the phone. Not yet, Mama. A pause, then her mother's soft voice unshaken. It's all right, my child. The gods will provide. Adama looked at herself in the cracked mirror above, their basin. Her reflection stared back, hollow-eyed, tired to the bone. She had lived her whole life making the right choices, and now she was staring down a decision that had no right answer. That night, she sat at the edge of her mattress, her body heavy with dread, as if Zuberi's hands had already touched her, without touching her. Sleep wouldn't come. Her thoughts raced in circles. What would happen if she said no? She'd lose her job, their only income. But if she said yes, she would lose herself. She hadn't eaten. Her phone buzzed beside her, screen glowing with unread messages. One from Ijoma asking if she was okay. Another from Ngozi sharing her excitement about school. That familiar weight, the one that whispered they are counting on you, pressed into her chest. The next morning, she dragged herself to work like a ghost in borrowed skin. She avoided Zuberi's gaze, kept her eyes low, but near the end of the day her phone vibrated again. This time it wasn't a question. It was an instruction. Hotel Oluma, room 307, 8 Mars p.m. Adama stared at the screen, her breath shallow. She could have ignored it, could have packed up her things and vanished, but then what? What would she say to her mother, to Ngozi, that their future had to wait because she wasn't strong enough to play along? She turned her phone off, lay flat, staring at the rusted ceiling fan until the hum felt like a prayer. By 7:30, she sat quietly in the back of a taxi, eyes fixed on the passing lights. The driver glanced at her through the mirror. "You all right?" "Madam?" She nodded, but her throat was dry, her chest too tight. When the car pulled in front of the hotel, she hesitated. Her pulse drummed in her ears. It wasn't too late to run, but her feet had already found the ground, already carried her forward. She stepped into the grand lobby where the air smelled of polished wood and expensive perfume. She gave the receptionist her name, a nod, a gesture toward the lift. Room 307. Her finger hovered over the elevator button before she pressed it. Her hands felt like ice. The ride up was slow, every second stretching longer than the last. When she reached the hallway, she paused in front of the door. Gold numbers shimmered before her eyes like they might offer a warning or a way out. Then, before she could turn away, the door opened. Zuberi stood there, casually dressed in a white shirt, sleeves rolled. He smiled, stepping aside. "Come in." Her legs felt like they didn't belong to her as she crossed the threshold. The room smelled of cologne and fresh linen. She heard the door close behind her, a soft final click that echoed in her bones. She didn't speak, just stood there, still holding her bag like it could keep her rooted to who she was. Zuberi walked to the minibar, poured himself a drink. "You look tense," he said, taking a sip. "Relax." But she couldn't. Her body felt too stiff, her skin too tight. He placed his glass down and moved closer, brushing a strand of hair. From her cheek, she flinched. He chuckled again. "Adama." Her breath caught. She had promised herself she wouldn't cry, that if this moment came she'd survive it with her dignity intact. But when he reached for her, when his hands slid toward her waist, her heart thundered with panic. She wasn't sure how to keep breathing. She had braced herself for pain, thought her chest might burst open, but when Zuberi kissed her, Adama felt nothing. Just a hollow stretch of silence inside her, and then it was done. The day after, the office hummed with its usual rhythm, but everything felt wrong. Not because the building had changed, but because Adama had. She sat at her desk, eyes fixed on her screen, hands hovering over the keyboard like they no longer knew how to type. Around her, life continued. Phones ringing, keys clicking, laughter leaking from the break room. But to her, it all felt distant, like she was sealed behind an invisible wall, watching life she couldn't touch. Zuberi walked past her desk without a glance. Her stomach knotted. Not a word, not a smirk, not even the smug nods he once threw her way. Just emptiness. She had done what he demanded, hadn't she? She had crossed a line that could never be erased. She expected something, anything to be different now. A promotion, favor, even a thank you. But there was nothing, just a cruel, cold silence that screamed louder than words ever could. She swallowed hard and began typing, her hands trembling with every keystroke. If she just kept working, maybe the weight on her chest would lift. Maybe the shame would fade, but the stares had already begun. She could feel them, eyes that turned away too quickly, conversations that stopped when she walked into the room. In the break room, people offered her polite smiles that felt like daggers. The only one who looked her in the eye was Amaka, and her expression wasn't pity. It was worse. It was recognition, understanding, the kind that comes from living through the same storm. Adama grabbed her coffee and fled before the walls could swallow her whole. She returned to her desk, trying to convince herself she had done what she had to do. But the fear hadn't left. The uncertainty hadn't loosened its grip. And then, as if fate enjoyed cruelty, her phone buzzed. A message. Her heart leapt, then sank. It was from HR. "Your position remains under review. Please report to our office at 4 p.m. The breath caught in her throat. Her fingers tightened around her phone. Still under review. She had given up something sacred, something she could never reclaim. And it still wasn't enough. The betrayal struck her like a punch to the chest. Regret roared in behind it, suffocating and swift. So this is what I sold myself for, she thought, her mind racing. She rushed to the restroom, trying to collect herself. She was washing her hands when a muffled sob reached her ears. She paused, turned off the tap, listened. The cry was low, but it cut deep, the sound of someone breaking quietly. "Hello?" she called. The sobbing stopped, silence. Then a stall door creaked open. It was Amara, a junior staff member barely out of her teens. Her eyes were red and swollen, her makeup streaked. She looked up at Adama, lips trembling. Adama's heart twisted. She had seen that face before, in her own mirror. "Are you all right?" she asked gently, though she already knew. Amara shook her head. "I'm fine," she said, but the word cracked under the weight of her pain. Adama didn't push. She just waited. Slowly, Amara exhaled and whispered, "Is it Chief Zuberi?" Adama's breath froze. Amara looked away, shame burning on her face. "He's been texting me, pressuring me to stay after hours. I said no, but now everything I do is wrong. He keeps telling me I should be grateful for this job." Adama's hands curled into fists at her sides. That sick feeling returned, but this time it was deeper. It wasn't just her. It had never been just her. She reached out, gently took Amara's hand. "You're not alone," she said, her voice stronger than she felt. "This has to end." That night, back in their dim little room, Adama opened her laptop. The soft glow lit the cracked walls. Amara's words echoed in her mind. It's happening again. She had a choice. Pretend none of this happened, keep her head down, or finally stand up. Her fingers hovered over the keys. She opened her email and began scrolling through messages. Zuberi's words were always dressed in professionalism, but now she could see the pattern, the tone, the implied warnings. Then she reached for her phone. Her thumb swiped slowly until she found it. The recording. That night in his office, the first time he made the offer. Her pulse raced. This was enough. It had to be. The next morning, Adama walked into the HR office. Her hands trembled slightly, but her spine held firm. She placed her phone and printed documents on the table and said without flinching, "I want to file a complaint." "Complaint," Adama said, her voice steady but low. Across the desk, the HR officer, a woman named Madame Nena with tired eyes and thick glasses, adjusted her frames and stared down at the printouts Adama had brought. "This is a grave allegation," she murmured slowly. "I know," Adama replied, "but I'm not the only one. He's done this to others too." Madame Nena sighed and rubbed her temples as though the weight of it all was already pressing down. "Adama, these things, they are difficult, hard to prove, and they can end careers." Adama swallowed the tightness in her throat. "Whose career?" she asked quietly. "His or mine?" For a moment silence hung between them like smoke. Then Madame Nena whispered, "I will escalate this." Adama exhaled, but didn't allow herself the comfort of hope. Not yet. At first it seemed like nothing had changed. Days passed, tension thickened, whispers curled through the halls like shadows. She noticed the sidelong glances, the way people quieted when she passed, the invisible weight of judgment resting on her shoulders. Then something cracked. Another girl stepped forward, then another. HR began calling them in, one by one. The air in the office shifted. People sat straighter, spoke softer. Then came the email, company-wide. A storm had broken, and when Zuberi walked the corridors now, people didn't make way for him. They looked away, lips pursed. And in his eyes Adama saw something new, fear. A week later the outside world knew. An anonymous blog post, screenshots, a voice recording. Everything exploded. The company scrambled. HR issued emergency memos. Management met behind closed doors, but it was too late. The rot had been exposed. Adama sat at her desk, breath caught in her chest as security escorted Zuberi out. He didn't speak. His face was blank, But his jaw was tight, his hands clenched into fists. His power gone. No more backroom threats. No more secret control. Adama watched him disappear through the lobby doors, and slowly, almost disbelieving, she exhaled. The weight she had carried for months lifted, piece by piece. For the first time in forever, she felt free. Outside the building, the place that once felt like salvation but had become a cage, Adama stood holding an envelope, her resignation letter, just a thin sheet of paper, but heavier than anything she'd ever held, heavy with truth, not regret. The moment she submitted it, she felt no fear, no hesitation. HR didn't even look surprised. They must have known. She wouldn't stay, not after what had happened. Zuberi was gone. The company was under investigation, but Adama would not stay behind to gather broken pieces she hadn't shattered. She turned away, chin high, spine straight, and walked, her steps steady, her heart unclenching. Life afterward wasn't simple. It was unstable, uncertain. No paycheck, no safety net. But still, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. She sent applications, went to interviews, waited. Then, one afternoon, the call came. "We'd like to offer you a position, Miss Adama. A new company, a new office, a place where her worth wasn't tied to silence but skill." When she walked into the building on her first day, something stirred inside her. Hope. But not the kind born from desperate prayers. This was deeper, the kind that blooms from choosing yourself. Her new co-workers welcomed her without glances that lingered too long, no whispers behind her back, just people working, just purpose. And for Adama, that was more than enough. When her first paycheck arrived, it wasn't extravagant, but it was hers. She sent some home, not out of guilt, but from love. Her mother's voice crackled through the phone, warm and full. "I knew you'd find a way, my daughter. Olodumare is faithful." Adama smiled, eyes wet even though her mother couldn't see her. She never told the full story. Some wounds were hers alone to carry, but she had made it through, and she had done it without letting go of herself. One evening she stood before her mirror, the same mirror that had once reflected a broken girl. But now she didn't see shame. She saw strength. She saw a survivor. Her fingers brushed the sink's edge as she whispered to her reflection, "I thought I had to give myself away to survive, but I was wrong." She lifted her chin, her gaze unwavering. "I survived because I chose to fight." Adama's story wasn't just her own. It was for every woman who had ever been silenced, every person who felt cornered. There is always a choice. It may be hard, it may cost you everything, but choosing yourself, choosing to rise, to walk away from what tries to break you, that is the true victory. Adama didn't walk away as a victim. She walked away as a woman who reclaimed her power, and she never looked back.